Hello, everyone. Welcome to Interesting Stories. Let's begin. On a quiet street in northern Atlanta, the sun spilled its final golden rays onto the warm concrete sidewalks. A few bikes lay quietly on the grass. Everything else was cicadas and the faint hum of a radio playing from someone's porch. And then, laughter. Sharp, pointed, and anything but friendly. Your dad work for the government? You got something wrong in your head? A police officer in uniform leaned down, gripping the wrist of a black girl standing in front of him. Her name was Amira Bennett, 13 years old. She had just finished her afternoon art class at the city's cultural center, and now she was standing in the middle of the street under the headlights of a patrol car, being questioned like a suspect. No force, no blood. But the way the officer looked at her, as if she were invisible, as if only her skin color was present, made the air feel tight and heavy. Some curtains moved slightly. People saw, but no one opened their doors. Amira didn't look down, her chin lifted, her voice calm. My dad is a senior advisor at the Department of Homeland Security. He'll be here in a few minutes. The officer stared at her like she'd just told the worst joke he'd ever heard. Yeah, and I'm the president. Amira stood still, no struggling, no talking back. She had been taught. When someone in uniform lays hands on you, stay still, keep your eyes level, and hold on to your dignity in silence. The officer still hadn't let go. He pulled out his radio, muttered something, then glanced at her again. Sit down, don't try to run, don't cry, this kind of thing, we see it all the time. The words dropped like a verdict. No evidence, no questions, just assumption. And truthfully, this wasn't new to Amira. It wasn't the first time someone had looked at her like she had done something wrong, just by existing. The silver-purple bike beside her was a birthday gift from her mother last year. She used it for school, errands, and her art class, which was 2 blocks away. Today, it was seen as suspicious property because someone had reported a missing bike that looked kind of like it. Somehow the resemblance was in the paint color and in the skin tone, but the coldest moment of all, it wasn't the look in the officer's eyes. It was when he laughed again, mocking her words. A senior official, huh? Kid, I've seen your kind plenty. Your dad just talks better than most. Just one sentence, no shouting, no slurs, but it slowed Amira's blood like ice in her veins, not because it was wrong, but because it was familiar. Familiar in the worst kind of way. Amira clutched her backpack strap. No tears, no more words. She knew, speak too much, and you'll be misunderstood. Now the officer's hand hovered near the metal cuffs on his belt. Just a few minutes at the station. If it's not you, you'll be right back. He said it like a friendly offer, but to Amira, it sounded like a sentence. A 13-year-old girl, alone, on the street, being escorted away because she looked like someone in a report. In that moment, the world went silent. Then brakes screeched, a slicing sound in the tension-heavy air. A sleek black sedan slid to the curb, no sirens, no lights, but the motion was enough to make the officer whip around. The back door opened, leather shoes touched pavement, slow, heavy, precise. A tall man stepped out, calm. No need to search. He saw her instantly. His daughter. No introductions. No yelling. Just one look. Sharp and cold as steel beneath a dark suit. Amira whispered, barely audible, "Dad." The officer instinctively stepped back, hand hovering over a holstered weapon. The man who had just arrived, David Bennett, didn't need a uniform. Just the silver and gold badge glinting on his chest beneath the street lamp was enough for anyone paying attention. Deputy Advisor for Homeland Security, one of the key figures behind domestic anti-terrorism policy. But today he wasn't wearing that role. Today he was a father. "Sir, this is a police matter," the officer stammered, voice losing its early confidence. David didn't move forward, didn't flash his ID. He simply stood, hands in his coat pockets, eyes locked on the daughter, frozen in indignation. "No, this is about you detaining my daughter on the street because she looked like someone." His voice was low, calm, but each word hit like hammer on steel. No shouting, no room left for excuses. Another officer, silent until now, stepped in, trying to soften the moment. We had a report of a stolen bicycle, and the girl matched the description. David tilted his head slightly, his gaze unwavering. What description? A purple bike or brown skin? A breeze passed through the street, making it feel emptier than before. He walked slowly up to the first officer, pulled a small leather wallet from his coat, flipped it open just enough to reveal the federal badge inside. If you're verifying identities, start with mine. The officer stared at the ID. His eyes lost focus, his cheeks flushed. What he saw wasn't a title. It was silence that didn't budge. The officer stood still, face rigid. The cuffs on Amira's wrist had become the raw symbol of every assumption she had just endured, and the man before them was about to tear through that illusion. David Bennett lowered his voice, speaking just for the man in front of him. I don't care what the report says. I care how you looked at my daughter. The officer bit his lip. No more smugness, no more footing to stand on. We were just following procedure. David lifted his eyes, his gaze sliced through that tired excuse like a knife. What procedure starts by cuffing a child and ends with fear in her eyes? Amira stepped closer, not out of fear anymore, but to stand beside her father. Her wrist still bore the red mark from the cold metal. Dad, I didn't say anything wrong. David placed a hand on her shoulder, gently, just enough for her to feel its warmth. I know, sweetheart. Then he turned to the officer, for the first time raising his voice slightly. Uncuff my daughter, now. No rebuttal, just shaking fingers working the lock. Click. The sound was soft, barely more than a whisper, but to Amira it felt like a whole system had just stepped back. The officer opened his mouth, maybe to explain, but David raised a hand. What are you going to say? A life lesson for my daughter? Trust me, she learned that when she was 10. A long pause. No one interrupted. The officers withdrew. The patrol car turned around. The engine hum faded like retreating from a world that no longer wanted them. Father and daughter walked slowly down the brick-lined sidewalk, the street lamp casting patchy yellow light at their feet. Neither spoke for a while, just the distant traffic and their footsteps. Steady, but changed somehow. Amira held her backpack tight, glanced a third time at the faint red mark on her wrist. She didn't cry, but in her eyes, something cracked and closed again. David looked over at her, voice low. If you want to say something, say it. I'm listening. Amira shook her head slightly. No need, Dad. I just wish today never happened. A small nod from a place of shared pain. Me too. They passed familiar houses, ones where people had peeked through curtains, then closed them again. Amira murmured like thinking aloud. I felt smaller when the cuffs went on, like I wasn't anybody. David stopped, turned fully to her, put a hand on her shoulder, not to comfort, but to anchor his words. They wanted you to feel that way, but you didn't get smaller. They just didn't know how to see you. Amira looked up. Her eyes held something stronger than any 13-year-old should carry. Dad, how do you stay strong like that? David smiled, softly, for the first time that day. Because if I don't, who else will you lean on? If there's one thing this story wants to say, it's this. Dignity doesn't need a title or a badge. It comes from standing tall, even when the world tries to bend you. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, dislike, or leave a comment below.